and just, and magnify your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Welcome, Council. I have apologies today from Councillor Barker and Councillor Rutledge. Would someone care to move that we accept those apologies? Thank you, Councillor Delberg. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Courtney. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. I would advise you that we are live streaming the public part of this meeting. Ensure that you use your microphones, but also just remember that they do pick up side conversations, so it's important to turn them off. I want to welcome Nico Frizzell. Nico, this is Nico's first visit to sit at the council table, and it's great to have you here. We've just been talking to Nico to say it's going to be a slightly different format to what we would usually do, because we've got a piece of public excluded business that we need to do reasonably soon, and so Nico and Jenna, welcome back, are going to step out and then they will join us later in the day. And are you going to stay for the governance meeting as well? Yes, excellent. All right. Okay, so enjoy today. Remember that you can ask questions. You can have a view during the debate as well if you want to. The only thing you are not able to do is vote. So, but apart from that, you're here to help us with our decision-making process by asking really good questions, and you do that. And also, if you've got thoughts on an issue, then we do want to hear those. Thank you. Councillor Fulton will be joining us remotely, so she is on the telephone link, and before I go into public excluded session, I will just be obviously having a conversation with Councillor Fulton to make sure that she is in a place where the conversation cannot be overheard. Are there any other matters that I need to be aware of as chair of the meeting? Do I have anyone that needs to leave, step out at any stage? No, so you can be here for the duration of the meeting. Thank you. In terms of the order of business, it'll be as set out on the agenda sheet. I'm not aware of any changes. I do have set out, when I get to the right page, in terms of what we're going to attend to today, any interests, if you've got any interests that you need to make me aware of, please do so. Either as we get to the item, and just a reminder to keep your interest register up to date. We don't have a public forum today, but we do have Mr. Taylor, Mr. Christensen and Mr. Jemmett, who are going to remain with us in public excluded business because they have knowledge and that is useful for our decision-making processes. And I'm also expecting Mr. Kearney, but he isn't here just as yet. I'm not sure if he will be here or not, so when I get to the resolution, I'll just cover that off in full. Mayor's report today is brief, and I may touch on this a little bit more when it gets to the 20th, but I'd just like to acknowledge that today is International Women's Day. I'm very proud that this is, yes, we're wearing our bracelets here to acknowledge that. I'm very proud that it is 125 years since New Zealand led the world in passing the legislation that allowed women to have a vote, and that is something that I am enormously proud of. I was listening this morning to one of my heroes, former Prime Minister Helen Clark, speaking in Wellington, and I just think what an extraordinary international leader she is, and how privileged we were to have her as our Prime Minister. I would say that we have some way to go in terms of leadership. There are many roles in New Zealand that we can tick off and say, yes, Chief Justice, Governor General, Prime Minister. There are still some other ones that we're yet to conquer, so let's see how we go in the future. One of the messages that was coming through very loud and clear from Ms Clark was that actually for women to move through into those leadership roles, the best way for that to happen is to have good support around you. And I have to say, if you do, it's easier. If you don't, it's damned hard. So, moving on. exclusion of the public. We're ready to move into public excluded business, and we have a recommendation here to move into public excluded business. Councillor Eklund.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've just got a question about the reason for going into public excluded. I just don't quite understand the commission negotiation basis for it.
I'll refer that to the Chief Executive. Mr Doherty.
So decisions that we'll be making today will affect funding of a project and the relationship that the client has with the contractor over that project, and it could be very damaging if that discussion was held in public. And similarly, the council also wants to be able to consider its position on how it supports that project, and has the right to debate that behind closed doors. Eventually, I would see that this report and whatever we decide would be released, unless there was some stunning, unexpected turn of circumstance, which I can't think of today. But my expectation is that very, very soon after this meeting, this report could be released from public excluded business.
Sorry, and just a subsequent question on
Councillor Eklund.
through you, that's slightly where I don't understand why it can be released immediately after a decision's made, as opposed to, like, what's the commercial sensitivity once the decision's made? Is it a third party's information, or is it something else that we wouldn't be releasing subsequently? Because if it's just, my sense, having read the papers, is that this could easily be a debate that's held in public. I wasn't sure exactly what the nub of the reason it goes into public excluded was. I'll take your advice on it, Chief Executive, that's fine, but I just want to be clear in my mind why this debate couldn't happen in public.
Look, I really don't have much more to add to what I've said. It's my view that the consequences of having this debate in public could be damaging to the relationship with the School of Music. It could be damaging to the relationship with the contractor, with the School of Music's relationship with the contractor, and it may be that the decision still ends up that way. But I think it's important that the debate itself is held in public excluded. But once that decision is made, then the relationships are defined, and the report and the decisions should be released.
Thank you. Right, so just before we head into public excluded business, I'll just check, Councillor Fulton, we're going to pass the resolutions to move in public, but I'll just check that you're in a position where no one will be able to overhear what's going on. Could you just confirm that for us while we're in public?
Yes, I am.
Thank you very much. All right, so we have the recommendations as set out on the agenda, that we move into public excluded business in accordance with section 48(5) of the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987. Nelson School of Music trustees Roger Taylor and Mark Christensen, as well as the Nelson School of Music Fund Chair Ian Kearney, remain after the public has been excluded for item 1 of the public excluded agenda, which relates to the Nelson School of Music earthquake strengthening funding, and they remain as they have knowledge that will assist the council, and notes that in accordance with section 48(6) of the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, the knowledge that Roger Taylor, Mark Christensen and Ian Kearney possessed relates to the Nelson School of Music. And we need to add, no, he's not. Thank you very much, Mr Doherty. I think we need to add to that Mr Tony Jemmett, because he also has knowledge for similar reasons. So Mr Jemmett is the Chief Executive of Opus, General Manager of Opus Nelson. That will be better. Okay, right. Thank you. And then we have the recommendation that we exclude the public for the following reasons, and they are set out on your sheet. There are 2 items, and you can see those in the table. I won't read those out. Do I have someone that would like to move that suite of recommendations? Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Thank you, Councillor Walker. I will put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Carried.